Think we've started. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see the numbers rising and people coming along to hear from the amazing Karen Herbert about her fantastic book, The Ghost Walk, which I absolutely adored. I'm Sasha Wasley, and I am filling in for the beautiful David, who is away at the moment. So I've been asked to fill in. I'm feeling extremely lucky about that. For two reasons. One, I get to talk to Karen about her brilliant book. And two, I get to help represent Libby, which is one of my favorite things in the world because it is how I can read so many books. So I want to start by introducing Karen and also letting you know that Karen and I are both on Wajut Noongar Puja this evening. I understand you are as well, Karen. Is that right?
I am indeed.
Yes. So welcome to wherever you are coming from all around this country and perhaps even internationally. So Karen, she is the author of the crime novels The Rivermouth, The Castaways of Harewood Hall, and Vertigo, which are all published through Fremantle Press. The Rivermouth, this is a good fact, is currently under option for film and television. Wow, that's the envy of every writer, I can tell you. Karen has been a writer in residence at the Catherine Susanna Pritchard Writers Centre, which is quite a large writers' centre here in WA, and at All Saints College in Perth. And she is the convener of the long-running book length project group at the Fellowship of Australian Writers WA. Karen holds a Master of Science in Applied Psychology, is a graduate member of the Australian Institute of Company Directors, Deputy Chair of Writing WA, and a board member of the Literature Centre. And we're going to be talking about her fourth book, The Ghost Walk, which is now available in bookstores and online, of course, in print, e-reader and audio formats, as well as large print, I believe. So let's begin by, first of all, going, wow, how many things are you managing to get done in a day, Karen? I can't believe what a busy, busy person you are.
Oh, thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Sasha. Yeah, I do tend to be a bit busy, but I think I was just made that way. I'm not very good at sitting. I'm happier when I'm up and moving about and doing stuff. Although my psychologist, who is helping me through menopause at the moment, has been talking to me about the wisdom of that at the moment, and perhaps being a little bit more comfortable with just sitting from time to time.
Yes, and learning to say no even when the opportunity feels fun.
Yeah. The fun ones, they're the hard ones to turn down, aren't they?
Exactly. Yep. The ones where you get FOMO if you turn it down.
Yes. Yeah.
I wanted to start. Let's just kind of warm up, and also everyone who's here, if you have a question, please pop it in the chat, as Julianne has said, and then I will ask it along the way because I love to hear the reader questions, and I'm sure Karen does as well. So I wanted to start just by asking this warm-up question, which is, what are you reading at the moment, Karen?
Oh, look, I have just finished reading, and I'm going to hold it up, even though I think it's going to come up a bit blurry. So I'm going to hold it in front of my face.
Well, that's working. In a Common Hour.
In a Common Hour by Sasha Walker, and I have just finished it. And it is just, wow, I just devoured it. It's about, what is it about? It's about an hour at lunchtime in a high school, in an Australian high school, where all of these things happen. There are naughty kids, and there are conscientious kids, and there are a whole bunch of different teachers with different stuff going on in their lives. And there's a central story about one teacher, Paul Bush, who, well, something happens to him during that lunch hour, and that something is devised by one of the students. And it happens fairly on in the book. And through the book, we learn how the entire school deals with this and
Wow.
how they come to a solution. And it's just delightful. And it's a really hopeful, happy book, even though it's quite tense for a
Yeah, because I
while.
was not getting that vibe from what you were describing. So that's
Yeah,
really
no,
interesting.
it is and the hopeful happiness is drip fed through the book,
Mm.
even though you
Mm.
get these moments where you're going, I don't know if it's going to work out well. And where her empathy and her kindness um, for each of the characters is a really it's a really compelling part of the book all the way through.
Wow, what a recommendation. That sounds
Oh,
really good.
it's
I can see
lovely.
everyone's probably dashing off to load that onto their Libby app
Oh,
next.
absolutely, absolutely read it.
I have heard
And
really good things about that book, actually, and
have you really?
I think it's from the same publishing house that I'm with. I think it's from Ultimo.
It is
And
from Ultimo.
yeah, and apparently it's kind of looking like it's going to be a bit of an award winner, like it's a bit of a
I
mm.
hope so.
Great recommendation. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Oh, look, Julianne has just mentioned that In a Common Hour is available in ebook and audiobook through Libby. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that we're getting kind of real-time updates here. So cool.
Yeah.
All right, next warm-up question. How did you come to writing? So when did you start? What prompted it? Why are you into it?
Yeah. Look, when I was a kid, writing and reading was the thing that I did. I was one of those nerdy girls. But look, when you grow up in 1970s Geraldton, what does a writer do? You don't know what a writer does. There are no writers around you. You don't see them. You don't know how they spend their days. You don't know how they get published. It's all a bit of a mystery. So I didn't go down that path. I did a business degree, and I worked in management and in human resources all my life. But then one day, about oh gosh, how many years ago now? About 7 years ago now, I was in one of those jobs, and my position was made redundant, and I was devastated, absolutely devastated, because I really loved that job. And I came home and I had a glass of wine and a bit of a sulk and then another glass of wine. And the next morning, when my husband got up to work, I'm a worker, right? So I sat down at my computer and I did some writing. And 12 weeks later, I had the first draft of a book. And then not so long after that, because I didn't have a job at that point, I had a first draft of another book. And I worked on both of them for a bit. And I got to the end of that year. It was in December. It was, the December catch-up time with everyone. And my kids said to me, well, what are you going to do with these books? And I said, I don't know. What do you do with a draft manuscript? And they said, well, don't you send them to publishers? And I went, oh.
Sounds a bit
So
real, doesn't it?
I sent one manuscript to Fremantle Press on the last day that they were receiving manuscripts for that year. And 6 weeks later, I got a call from the lovely Georgia Richter, who I'd never heard about. And she said, we would love to publish your book. And then she said a lot of other things, but I didn't hear them.
I can imagine.
And eventually I had to very politely say to this lovely woman, look, can we have this conversation later? Because I think I need to call my mum.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And then a few months later, they signed up the second book. So I now understand that story is not a usual story for writers. And I am at pains when I do speak with non-published writers to understand where they are in life and what's going on for them, because I was in a very lucky position. I was able to sit down and write. I have a husband who goes out to work. My children are grown up. We paid off the mortgage on our house. It's a very fortunate position for me to be in. And I speak with so many young people who find it so difficult to find the time to write. And then so I ask them what's going on in their lives. And well, they've got 3 young kids and they're trying to juggle a part-time job, and they do still have a mortgage, and they've got a long commute. And I think, and I say to them, wow, you're amazing. You're amazing that you get any words on the page at all, because I wouldn't have stood a chance at that part of my life. So I'm really lucky that I wrote when I did, when I had the time to write, and to have been published out of it, I think.
I mean, that's really gracious of you, but I guess one of the other factors there is you're a good writer. Like, not a lot of people can come to writing after another career and just be good at it in the way that you are, which is, I think that's the kind of unicorn thing about you, is that you've gone, I'm going to write a book, and then you've written a damn good book, because so many of us just go, I'm going to write a book, and then we write crappy books for years, which is why we don't get published for years. So that is pretty amazing and impressive.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think there's a lot to be said from growing up being encouraged to read and to express yourself. And I was a reader. My children are readers. One of my children sent me the draft of an editorial that she was asked to write for a scientific journal recently. She's a scientist. She's not a creative writer. And I sat down and read it. And look, of course I'm biased because I'm mum, right? But I was sitting, I was reading, I was like, oh my goodness, she is so good at this. And then I was speaking to her older sister, and I told her that I'd read it. And I was like, where did she get this talent from? And my older daughter very wisely said, Mum, she's a reader. Of course she can write.
Well, what I was thinking was, she's the daughter of a really good published author as well. But yeah, she's a reader, yes.
Who encouraged her to be a reader.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's get on to this book. We have got a couple of nice comments in here in the chat, just saying
I can't see them, actually.
Oh, okay. So we've had someone say that he grew up in Geraldton too. So, and then there's someone else just saying that she loves what you've written about up north in WA, and really enjoyed this book, and well done to you. So thanks everyone. It's so lovely seeing these comments. So The Ghost Walk. Now, this is your 4th book.
Yes.
And as an author, as a fellow author, I know that some books are easier than others. And I sort of think of them like, when you have babies and you've got one baby who sleeps really well and eats perfectly and never gets colic, and it's just a dream. And then you have another baby, and that one's like colicky and crying all the time, and sleep is all upside down. It's sort of like you've got one easy baby and one more challenging baby.
Yeah.
And books, I think, are the same when we're writing them. So I want to know, how did The Ghost Walk fit into that spectrum?
Yeah, they are very different, aren't they? I was really excited when I started writing The Ghost Walk. I loved the idea, and I couldn't wait to get into it. But then I got to a point where the book started to frighten me a little bit, right? The writing the book started to frighten me a little bit. And I think part of that was my very personal investment in the book. But also I got to a point in writing this book when there started to be a big uptick in conversations about own voices. And look, I have Meniere's disease. I've lived with it since I was 21. I have a daughter with disabilities. But for me, that didn't quite translate into my right to write a character with cystic fibrosis, even though my first ever friend in the world had CF. And so I stopped because I felt a little bit intimidated. And I ended up writing Vertigo instead, because that has a character with Meniere's disease. And I thought, okay, well, I'll give this a shot. And it was both easier and harder than I thought it would be. And look, Meniere's disease is not going to kill me. And I can live a very functional life with Meniere's disease. Cystic fibrosis is a whole other conversation. But still writing about it, writing the scenes where the character had flare-ups and episodes and drop attacks was challenging. It was not pleasant to write it. And testing it out with other people with Meniere's disease was also difficult, because we're all different. We all experience the disease differently. And so I finished that and I came back to the ghost walk and continued talking with my dear friend, Jo Giles, who has cystic fibrosis. And she reminded me of all of the things that I'd learned when I wrote Vertigo, and should have really known anyway, especially as a parent of a child with disabilities, that every disability is different and every experience of disability is different, and that I should not get myself in too much of a knot trying to represent every single person with cystic fibrosis. So once I kind of got over that hump, I wrote this book really quickly and really, really enjoyed writing it. So I suppose there are some wobbly moments for me in it, but also a lot of real deep, deep joy in writing it.
Amazing. That's interesting. It became almost a psychologically challenging process rather than just a mentally or cognitively one
Yeah,
challenging.
absolutely it did.
Mm.
Absolutely it did.
And I found the main character, Ruby, who has CF, a very authentic representation from what I know about cystic fibrosis, but also um, it went so much deeper than what I know. And I really felt like I actually started to look up information about you to find out if you had CF, if you hadn't identified, because you just seem to know so much about what it would be like. So talk us a little bit through your research process. You've got obviously a friend who's got it. Do you want to tell us how you learnt more?
Yeah, so I've known Jo and I went to pre-primary, to kindy together in Narrogin, and stayed in touch through most of our childhood and teenage years, mostly pen pals and occasional visitors, overnight visitors to the country towns that we lived in Geraldton, in Western Australia. And then we kind of drifted apart in our adult lives and occasionally connected back. And then really connected back over Facebook, via Facebook,
Yeah.
about 10 or 15 years ago now. So all my life, I've known about cystic fibrosis and what the treatments are and what it's like to live with it. And then, of course, I had the absolute delight of Jo, who is such a reader and such an advocate for how people with disabilities are represented in literature, willing to walk alongside me and say, can you not do that thing? or, yeah, look, I don't think Ruby would quite look at it this way. Could I suggest this instead?
Wow.
And that was a real gift. I did fall into the trap, though, of something that I heard Donna Mazza talk about probably about 5 or 6 years ago now at an author talk. She was promoting her book, Fauna, which is another wonderful West Australian book, if anybody wants to look that up and borrow it from the library. She was talking about all the research she did, which is very heavy scientific research, and how she incorporated that into the book. And she said she had to remove slabs of writing out of that book because she had desperately wanted to prove that she knew what she was talking about. You've done this, haven't you? I can
Oh, man.
tell. And I did exactly the same thing. I pretty much wrote an exegesis. I had to
You can see
skip
how
and
easy that would have been with
skip.
that topic.
Yeah, yeah.
So huge. And yeah, and also the psychological effect of trying to prove that you know what you're talking about and trying to show it respectfully and but also, yeah, but to try and show your street cred in a way.
What it is. And, of course, I didn't do any of that when I wrote Vertigo
No?
because I didn't have to prove
Oh,
that I
because you
knew
were
about
the
Meniere's disease.
yes, yes, of course.
Mm.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
I love the visceral approach to the CF and to Ruby.
Mm.
There was some really amazing use of imagery in the book, which was done with a light touch, though. Like it wasn't kind of like dominating the story as some writers sometimes you feel like they're trying to impress with their prose, but this just felt really, I don't know, it was great, really authentic. Um,
Thank
did
you.
they just pop into your head while you were writing? Guess I'm thinking of things like the descriptions of phlegm and mucus and the bad breath and the choking sensation and mold and kind of there was some really earthy stuff in there. And yeah,
Yeah.
where did that come from? Like, did it just come out in the writing process, or did you go back and edit that stuff back in when you had more time to
Oh
think?
no, I wrote it. I wrote it as I wrote it. But some of the stuff came directly from Joe.
Mm,
And can I read a little paragraph? And I've actually
please,
bookmarked it, exactly what you said then.
please.
So this is a scene very early in the book. Ruby has been very sick and she's just got out of hospital and she's gone for a walk, which she probably shouldn't have done. Um, and she sits down on a bench and she calms herself down and she focuses on her breathing. And she's talking about breathing and her consciousness of her breathing and how it changed after her lung transplant. And that was my dog. And what she tells us is this: after the transplant, the easy flow of my breath was a marvel. It would fascinate me for hours, lying there in my bed, listening to the absence of sound, the disappearance of the urge to cough, the lack of smell. I would breathe into my hand and sniff it, but there was nothing. No sweet, musky stink of infection, no stale waft, just clean air sighing in and out. And then there was the phlegm. I was fascinated by my phlegm after my transplant. It was silvery and soft with long strings that sparkled in the light. I could pull them apart with my fingers and they would hang in my hands like a spider's web on a cold morning. Infected phlegm isn't silvery and soft. It's yellow and brown and black. It hurts to cough it up and it stinks. Sometimes, pre-transplant, I would cough up hard black tubes, literally coughing up bits of my lungs, gunked up and broken off, eroding away year by year. What's the worst thing about having a lung transplant? The first time you cough, it's not your phlegm.
Yeah, I actually laughed out loud at that moment when I was reading it. And who would have thought that you could enjoy a description of phlegm? But there you go. I genuinely did.
I probably put everybody off from reading the book now.
I think everyone got a sample of how beautiful your prose is just then.
Aww.
Um, One of the things that occurred to me while I was thinking about the book afterwards was that there's this kind of tug of war between doing the right thing to kind of live a long life and living a worthwhile life or living an enjoyable life. And we see that play out with Ruby, obviously, because she's got to do certain things in order to lengthen her life, and kind of in a way behave herself. But then she also does some quite self-destructive things that people without CF would consider kind of par for the course teenage behaviors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's obviously the thing with Gabe, because Gabe also dies early, which that's not a spoiler because it's right at the beginning of the book. And Ruby's parents, which you get a hint from the beginning that they've passed away in some way. And I wanted to know, like, what would you choose? What's your wisdom? What would you choose? Longevity or a worthwhile life, a fun life, if you had to choose between the two and you couldn't have both?
Right now, at this point in my life, um, I think I do a lot of tightrope walking between the two. Um, I've worked in aged care for about 10 years, and in aged care, and in disability services too, where I have worked as well, we have a concept called dignity of risk. And that is about ensuring that the person that you're looking after is afforded the dignity to make their own decisions, and take the risks that they want to take with their own bodies. So an example is, say, in aged care, might seem a frivolous example. If we have an older person in aged care who really does not want to eat her vegetables every night and would rather just have 2 helpings of dessert, and damn it, she's lived until she's 90, she should be able to make those choices.
Yes.
She knows that she's got diabetes. She knows that she's got high cholesterol, but she wants to enjoy her pudding. So if she wants to enjoy her pudding, she should be allowed to enjoy her pudding. And
Yes, because if she was living in her own circumstances not being in a care situation, she would do what she wanted.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And there's a moment in the Ghost Walk where Ruby is having a conversation with a very old friend of hers, Nigel, and he berates her for making decisions that might shorten her life, and she gives him what for. She decides she's not going to be good, and she's not going to be compliant and appease somebody to make them feel good. She's going to tell them exactly what she thinks. And I'd like to think I was Ruby, yeah, at this point in my life.
Well, it was well portrayed because you had the tension also of her parents who adored Ruby and wanted her to survive, and her sister. And, she's got friends as well, and they all want her to survive. And some of them are kind of like, just do what you want to do. And others, like, there's a moment where her sister comes and basically rescues her from herself. Yeah, that was really cleverly done.
Yeah. And I think it might appear cleverly done in literature, in the book, when it's in black and white, but it's the reality of lives of so many of us who are balancing some difficult circumstances. And it's just what we do. It's what I see my daughter do every day.
Yeah. And I guess that's what literature is for, isn't it? It's to help us question folk knowledge, beliefs and the characters. I just mentioned a few of them. I really love Titsy, by the way, and I love her name. So good. I was wondering, how did she get that name? And I really loved the explanation when it came up. They were so compelling, though, and I sometimes felt like, I don't know if you've read any Tana French.
Yes.
Yes. I felt the same when I read her work. It's so character driven that sometimes the mystery almost becomes secondary, but it's really nice tension throughout as well. And I wondered with you, do you find that the mystery is kind of secondary to the
Yeah,
characters? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I think every book that I've written so far has been driven by a character. Um, or I've started off by writing a scene, and these characters have come into the scene, and they've gripped me, and I want to see where they go and what they do. And I love that if I spend a good solid amount of time getting to know and understanding my characters and putting them in ordinary situations and allowing them to be themselves, then when it comes to putting them in difficulty or having to solve a murder,
Yeah.
it becomes very obvious what they're going to do to solve the murder. It's almost like I don't need to make it up because that character is there fully formed, and there's only a limited number of ways they could do that thing. And that
Yeah.
makes it so enjoyable to
Yeah.
write.
Yes. And you're kind of working with almost a live cast.
Yes, yes, it
Mm.
is. It is very much like that. Do you feel the same thing when you write?
Yes, after a couple of tens of thousands of words, when I start to feel like I know my characters better.
It's
Yes.
about 30,000, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're finally like, I know what this person is doing now. Yes. I did wonder on that topic of mystery versus character driven, etc. Do you consider your work mystery? Like, is that, I know that it's complex, isn't it? Because you write a book and you go, this is a complex story with different layers and different genres mixed in. But ultimately, a publisher has to market the book somehow. So I think your books are
Mm,
being marketed as mystery or crime,
yeah.
or psychological suspense. Is that, where would you put it?
I would put this one as psychological suspense. I'm very conscious that I don't have probably the best grip on genre that I might have had, well, that my contemporaries have. So, people like you and people like David Wish-Wilson and all those fabulous authors that are around us here in Western Australia, who've been doing this for a long time. You all have a much better sense, it seems to me, of what the conventions are for different genres, and and how to break them when you need to, and how to deliver on them when you need to. And I kind of feel like with each book that I've written so far, I've been I'm kind of mixed metaphors horribly here, Sasha, but I've been trying on new clothes with each one. So the Ghost Walk has a very much a romantic mystery element to it. The first book, The River Mouth, was very much a rural, almost noir
Wow, yeah.
setting.
Mhm.
Vertigo was a very city-based corporate crime story. Harewood Hall was a very light, cozy crime, and they were all delightful to write. But as I've walked the path, I've had to learn, I think, what the conventions are for each of those subgenres, and learn how to follow the rules and how not to follow the rules.
Mm.
But
I think your
that's
work,
been a wonderful thing to learn.
yeah, I think your work verges into what would be considered literary fiction, that it's very intelligent and can be quite experimental. If I
Mm.
had to give you your own genre, it would probably be character-driven intrigue. There you go. They need
I
that
can
little
use
sign for
that. Can
that
I
up in
use that
bookshops.
now?
Absolutely. Okay. Now, speaking of characters, Gabe,
Yes.
interesting guy. He's
Isn't
both,
he though?
yeah, he's both kind of can't look away, attractive, and insufferable. And you don't ever quite know if you love him or hate him as a reader. Well, that was my experience. Did you feel that way about him? And did he ever kind of tip too far one way or the other for
Oh,
you?
absolutely. I felt that way about him. I felt that way about him when I knew him 30 years ago.
We won't mention any names.
No, we definitely will not do that. Um, although I think the convention is that you say that the person is the character is a composite. That's
Oh,
what we
yes,
do these
absolutely.
days,
It's an
isn't it?
amalgam, yes.
Um, yeah, look, he's like every person, isn't he? He has his good side and his bad side and his insufferable moments and the moments where you sit there and you go, "Oh, you good guy. You do have empathy." After all.
Under that ego.
But I think in the end, for me, I think he falls on the side of dislike.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. If it was kiss, kill, or marry, I think he'd be killed.
Yeah, fair. And he did get
Well,
killed,
I
so there
did
you
kill
go.
him, didn't I? So there you go. No, he's look, he's every university campus's gorgeous, charismatic dude who is trying to be a bad boy, but really isn't, and actually can't afford to be truly a bad boy because he's got these ambitions.
Yeah,
And he needs to keep himself reasonably clean
yes.
in order to fulfill them.
Yeah.
So he's pretty performative, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you get that vibe, don't you? He kind of swans in like a god.
Yeah.
And, he's a transplant surgeon, so it doesn't get much more
So he is
emotive
a
than that.
god, basically.
Yeah, yeah, he is. I mean, the angel Gabriel, that was where I kept thinking as well, that kind
Yep.
of archangel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, universities you just mentioned.
Yes.
As someone who's been to 4 universities in Perth, because I couldn't quite work out where I was going, um, I recognised the universities in this book, which was a thrill, as the other readers here will know. It's always a
Yeah.
thrill when you recognise a place. So I felt like most of the action was taking place at Murdoch, um,
Mm.
and also that they had been to UWA.
Mm.
Um, did I get that right? And like, can you tell me about why you wanted to use universities as a setting?
You did get that right. And the characters told me that the universities were the setting. Um, so, um, the Murdoch is there because it's right next door to the hospital, where Ruby spent an awful lot of her time and where Gabe worked. Um, I a lot of the way I've created the campus in the Ghost Walk is I can see Gordana. Why is the novel called The Ghost Walk? I'll tell you that in a second.
Oh, good question.
Um, so a lot of the campus is true to the way the campus is laid out, but the swamp quite close to the hospital, I have embellished
Mm.
and I've relocated the tavern. And I've made the swamp deeper and bigger, and I've put a boardwalk through the swamp, and I've called the boardwalk the Ghost Walk. Um, and I called it that because I envisaged a real ghost walk down in Yallingup. So when you leave Cabe's house in Yallingup and you walk towards the beach, you do walk across a bridge over a river, and that bridge is called the Ghost Walk. And it is a really spooky little spot because everything dips down and no lights feed in there. And you go in there, and all of a sudden it is pitch black. And it's really spooky. So I named this after the Ghost Walk in Yallingup, and created a boardwalk in the swamp at Murdoch University for it to traverse.
And you've got a couple of ghosts there, or the students kind of, there's rumored ghosts and the students
There are
talk about them a
rumors.
bit.
It's even a university campus if it doesn't have a rumoured ghost.
I hope not. Yeah, I hope there's no campus that doesn't have a room ghost. It's an
Mm.
important part of that transition in life, I think.
Yes, definitely. Both ends of
And
life.
so you kind of start with the ghosts, like we meet them pretty quickly
Mm.
because the beginning of the book kind of opens on Gabe's body has been found in the swamp, and Ruby is reflecting on what's happened, and cleverly done there because you're not quite sure how Ruby feels about Gabe that early on. But yeah, you got the ghosts, and then at the end, and again, I'm assuming most people here have read it. At the end, there's another ghost. I won't say what or who or anything, but I kind of was struck only after I read it. It felt very normal and natural while I was reading it. And then I thought, that's actually kind of some supernatural elements in there.
Yeah.
So, did you actually kind of go into that going, I'm going to write a book with ghosts, or is that more of a literary device where you're kind of going, I want to express these ideas and this works?
Um, Probably neither. I didn't come at it thinking about having a supernatural element in there. Um, and I but I also knew how I wanted to portray the final scene.
Mm.
And I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do that until I worked it out. And that's how we end up with another ghost.
Okay. And what's your perspective on ghosts? Believer, non-believer, need more proof?
I think I lean towards more likely than not.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm a Christian,
Yep.
and there have been times when I've sat there and gone, "What's he doing
Oh.
there?" And my mother is absolutely certain that her mother, my grandmother, comes to visit from time to time. And I don't know what those visions are. Um, I don't know if it's a product of our minds, or if it's a real thing that's out there. But either way, it's an unexplained visit, I think, and and often something that causes a lot of comfort and reassurance for people. So I don't really mind if it's a product of our minds or a product from outside our minds. I still think it is an unexplained thing that happens.
Sort of
And
swings wildly from
I
terror
can't
and
really
comfort.
dismiss it.
Yeah. So, my next question, I'll just refer back to my notes here. Sisterhood. I talked
Yeah.
about Titsy and Ruby. I felt like you represented sisterhood very accurately. I have two sisters,
Do
and
you have
there's
sisters, Sasha?
certainly
How many sisters do you have?
two, well, three actually, but two that I grew up with, and certainly the tension between them telling you what's good for you and being the people who have got your back most in the world
Yeah,
is a thing. So
yeah, it
I
is,
wanted
isn't
to
it?
know, do you have sisters? Like, how did you represent sisterhood so well?
Oh, absolutely. I have sisters. I'm the eldest of three.
Ooh.
And in my family, one of the most exciting things that happened when we were very little children was that our parents bought us an LP of Peter Ustinov narrating Peter and the Wolf.
I had that.
Did you have that
It was
too?
so good because there's a duck called Sasha, you know, so, although I think it's a boy. Sorry.
Okay. So we
Oh, you
used
cut
to,
out for a minute then. Can you repeat what you just
oh,
said?
the duck is called Sasha.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So we did used to enact Peter and the Wolf in our lounge room, using a white shag pile rug as the pond, and we did used to chase each other up the hallway, pretending to be the duck and the wolf.
Oh, Yeah, because that happens in the book, doesn't it?
It
So
certainly
that's taken
does.
straight from real life,
It's taken
except you had an
straight from
extra
real.
player in real
Yeah.
life.
And just last year, I went to see the WA Youth Orchestra, who are wonderful. If anybody has not gone to see them, perform Peter and the Wolf in costume. And I took my daughter and a 4-year-old grandson. And the most important thing for him at the end of the performance was that we should go backstage and check on the duck because he was very worried. He wanted to know that she was okay.
Yeah.
So we did go and see the duck, and he did very earnestly ask her if she was okay.
Thank
And
goodness.
she reassured him that she was fine.
That's beautiful. Bless. Um, okay, I'm going to segue completely here, but creepy moments. I found some of the moments in the book very creepy. There was one
Ooh.
element that kept bothering me all through, and it reminded me there's a Hitchcock movie, I can't even remember what it's called, where every now and then there's a cupboard that just the door swings open and it goes nowhere. Like it doesn't mean anything. The woman just says, "Oh, it often does that." She goes over and shuts it. But every so often throughout the movie, this door just swings open. She goes and shuts it. And you're just expecting there to be a body in there at some point. And you had this kind of element in the Ghost Walk where you had the bathroom window, which Ruby
Mm.
obviously keeps open a little bit because of her lungs. So she needs to keep a bit of fresh air circulating and try and keep the mold down. So brother-in-law puts a bit of dowel in there and they're kind of like, you shouldn't leave that open, but she just keeps yanking out the dowel and opening it. Oh, the whole way through, I was very uneasy about that window. So I wanted to know, were you kind of inspired by Hitchcock or what directors, writers, and all of that inspired you in terms of mystery and horror?
I did not think about it until you just raised it. I had no idea.
Ah, well, it was very creepy and very worrying. Well, do you
I
have
had a
any kind of
Hitchcockian
inspiring?
window and I didn't even know.
Did you have any inspirations in terms of like the writers you love to read, mystery or movies that you love to watch?
You know, um, my favourite book is always the last book that I've read. I'm so, I don't know whether I'm suggestible or I influence easily or, but
Just very immediate, perhaps.
it's very, but reading A Common Hour,
Mm.
I was sitting there turning the pages going, I wish I'd written this.
Yes, yeah.
She did that. I must make some notes. And absolutely fell in love with it. And what am I'm actually reading some nonfiction at the moment, very controversially, short story accounts by Jewish women of their experience in the world at the moment. The book is called Ruptured,
Yeah.
and it's written by a series of Australian Jewish women. And as I'm reading that, again, I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, she captures this just in such a way that you can really, really feel it. Why can I write like that? every book that I read is yeah, take something away from it and fall in love with it.
Yeah. There's a good question in the chat here. Love the book. Would you like it to be a movie? Not many about disability.
Oh, wouldn't that be so cool? Who would play Gabe?
Mm. You could even put a Hemsworth in, I reckon. But you kind of need a thinking woman's Hemsworth, if there is
Who's
such a
the
thing.
guy that played Loki opposite?
Oh, Tom Hiddleston. Yeah.
Hmm,
He's
hmm.
not got the right look for Gabe, I don't think, but he's got the attitude.
He's got the attitude. Yeah.
And I think the nice thing, I mean, Alexandra has mentioned that there's not many movies about disability, but what I like about your book is that it's not just about disability. Well, it's not even about disability. It's about a murder, and the character has got a
Yeah.
disability, which is a really fresh, I think, and contemporary way to represent disabilities, to have it be part of the story, like people's lives, people with disabilities have lives as well. It's not
Yeah.
all about their disability. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's about a woman who solves a murder
Mm.
who just happens to have a disability, and she has um, uh, good points and bad points, and she's fearless, and then she's frightened, and
Mhm.
she's naughty, but then she's also really compliant. She's a great auntie and a lovely friend, except when she's not. Um, she's all the things that everybody is. And I love the feedback that I've had from people saying I just love her. I can see so much of myself in her, and that's the way it should be.
Complex and three-dimensional. And her life is shaped by having cystic fibrosis, but it doesn't define her. Of course, your
Absolutely
life is
not.
going to be shaped by something that pretty much confines you to to the house sometimes for long, long periods of time, or to hospital, or she goes to that camp when she's a kid, and then they find out that they're all getting that infection at the camp and passing it on to each other. So poor thing can't even mix with other kids with CF.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Is that from real life, that
yep.
story?
That's real.
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
Um, so as a fellow writer, I found myself sometimes wondering if you invent the um, the funny, quirky moments in your books, or sometimes do you borrow moments kind of whole and unsullied from real life? For example, you got Grace, little Grace, so that's Ruby's niece. She makes this joke all the time about that's when I was a baby in Mummy's tummy, and in the photo is her father with a big beer belly, and she says, and that was when my brother was in Daddy's tummy. And that just really smacked to me of real life. Like I've got kids who have said stuff like that. Did you lift that one from real life?
I did lift that one from real life, but Grace's later teasing of her younger brother that he was pooped out of his dad's bum, that is not taken from real life.
That was more of an extrapolation, yes. Sisterly torment, excellent.
That seemed like an obvious poke.
So, okay, it sounds like you do pull things, and
Both.
when you
Yeah.
find like a good moment, yeah, you collect
Yeah.
moments in a way.
Sorry?
Do you collect moments as an author?
I'd like to think I was that person who remembered to write stuff down, but I never do. I just, I, I really feel like somewhere in my personality there's a notebooker, with a lovely little notebook that I keep in my handbag with a perpetually sharpened pencil where I write stuff. But I just don't do it.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
It's obviously going in though, and
it's
staying
going
in.
in. It's
Yeah,
going in. It's just another part of me wishing to be something that I'm not.
yeah. Okay, so what did you hope to say with this book? I mean, we've kind of picked up on a lot of the key messages, but what did you really hope that readers would take away?
I would hope that they had lots of fun reading it,
Mhm.
that they were guessing until the end, and that they loved Ruby, and that they got just a bit of a opportunity to think about what it means to have a disability, and that it means that you're still a whole person. You're not a fragile, innocent victim, and you're not a limping monster with facial difference. That there are opportunities right through the middle of those two things for you to be who you are.
Yes, a living, feeling, sexual being that's got needs
Yeah,
and perversities and contrariness.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I think you achieved it.
Thank
If
you.
they were your goals. I think one of the best things about the book is that it was a really engaging and easy read, as well as a very layered and intricate read. So you could read it on a different level depending on how you're feeling about reading at that time.
Oh,
Which
that's really nice to hear that.
good. So tell us what you're working on now. Are you working on something now, and what is it?
I am working on a man who is in his 40s, and he's really disappointed in his life. It hasn't turned out the way he was told it was going to turn out. And in manipulating his life to make it turn out the way he was told it was going to turn out, he may or may not have done a few things that are not particularly ethical. And
Ooh.
we meet him, his name is Scott, as he drives away from his family farm near Weymouth, which is Geraldton. And he's got a gun in the back seat. And he's left the family home very quiet in the early morning light.
Oh, crikey.
Mm.
Sounds like you've dipped even further into darkness there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Scott does dip into darkness. The question is whether he can extract himself from it and whether the people around him will help him extract himself from it or not.
Oh, that sounds great.
Mm.
Like, where are you up to in it? How much have you written?
I've almost done. I
Wow.
think I probably got another 20,000 words to write, and then quite a bit of polishing. He's been very hard to write.
Yeah.
I took a long time to really get into his head to understand him, and but then when I finally did, and when I found my empathy for him, it really started to that it really came together then. But I do need to go back now and just revisit what I wrote when I wasn't quite liking him.
Fair enough. Yes. And is that one kind of, has that got a release schedule, or is it something that you're going to put out when it's
It's
done?
something that I'll pitch.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. Looking forward to that one. It's your
Mm.
last opportunity, people, to ask any burning questions that you may have. And then we've got a little treat. So I'll just I might just ask one more question and see if anyone's got anything to add. All right. Advice for aspiring writers. What would you suggest? What's your one hot tip for aspiring authors?
And hot tip, other than just write, um, let go of the fear.
Mm.
Write what feels right for you. Um, Obviously do all the things that we're supposed to do. Get lots of advice. Make sure you understand what good writing looks like. Make sure you understand your genre. All that standard stuff. We must all do that. But to let go of the fear and really just write, and especially don't be afraid to stand on your soapbox and you know, bang the drum about the things that you feel passionate about. So embrace it. You've got an opportunity to say something. Just do it.
Brilliant. I love that. That is such good advice. I don't think I've ever heard another author say that before, and I think it's fantastic. Do you want to have a quick scroll back through the chat and pick your
I
favorite
can't see
question?
it.
Oh, you can't see it?
No.
Okay. Well, pick a number between one. I'm just going to put the comments, count the comments. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, between 1 and 4.
Let's go number 2.
All right, number 2 was the lovely Peter Newbern. And Peter, you have won a book, a signed book, personally signed to you from Karen. So, Peter, I hope you're still here. If you're not, well, I'm not quite sure what happens, but perhaps Julianne can pipe in at this point. But Peter, if you are still here, if you could please email Julianne on the email address that she's popping in the chat right now. Thank you so much, Kate. She just said thank you, and she loved thinking back to her uni days of experimentation and finding herself. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been really good fun. Next month's book is David Wish Wilson's book, O'Keeffe, another amazing West Australian author
Two
of,
thumbs up for that one.
oh, there you go. There's a recommendation. So we hope to see you again next month when Dave Allan-Petale will be back. Thanks again, everybody. And yeah, have a great night.
Thank you,
Karen.
everybody. Good night.